Beginning the current Daf in Shabbos Daf Kuf Dal, beginning the bottom line of Kuf Gimel and Beis, in the middle discussing regarding the halacha of a pesucha and the sasum regarding the mem, which came into the discussion. One of the opinions in the Mishnah regarding the malacha of ksiva, which we were discussing, was talking about if you write a shem cut and shem gadol, you write shem from Shimon or from Shmuel, that you're going to be chayiv, and that's what we wondered. Wait a second, shem has an endemem, Shimon and Shmuel has a regular mem. How could that be as if you're liable, as if me'achas, if you didn't write it the way it's supposed to be written? And that's what the Gemara discussed, an opinion that, if you switch a regular mem with an endemem, it's going to be chayiv, and that's where we continue our Gemara's discussion. Shes Kosman's Bekazach and Yecheskel, Torani Time, Daf Achayim, everyone who's joining us. Some of this we're going to speak about in today's daf is the Aleph base. We're going to talk about, we're going back to the Aleph base, Kitta Aleph, the order of the Aleph base, the shape of the Aleph base, the name of the Aleph base. Additionally, on Amud Beis, we're going to continue with the previous Mishnayos of the Malach of Kaisev regarding which type of ink are you liable for, writing or scratching on one's flesh, if you're writing, adding one letter to a complete word or entire sefer, that everyone might agree over there, even though it's only one letter, and we said the Malach, so there's two letters, if it's completing a word or if it's completing the sefer Torah, then that everyone might agree that you're chayav. Additionally, some of the terms and concepts we're going to discuss in today's daf is mem besamach shabaluchas benes ha'ayim. That in the luchas, the endemem and the samach, it was a nest. It was a miracle how it stayed, because an endemem has a middle that is not connected to anything. How did it stay? Especially with a samach, you can't take out the whole thing. That's not a samach anymore. If you're carving out, there had to be something in the middle that miraculously stayed there. Also, menatzvach tzei from Amr. The alternate versions of mem, nun, tzadi, fei, chaf that we call endemem, endenun, and all the things that have the enders, that have the sofit, that were instituted by the Nevi'im later on. Additionally, the concept that ein av rishon l'chadash daf now, the prophet is not allowed to introduce anything at a later point in time. Everything was given by Har Sinai, and no one was able to add anything new. Additionally, achas ala arg is the concept that adding one thread to a woman's fabric is a machlekes tanoim. On the one hand, you could say that you're chayiv since the product is a sizable fabric, meaning it was already something significant. Now that you add on one thing, it's significant. Now then, you could say it's potter since you only added one thread. The liability is only with two letters of writing, two threads that are being woven. So say that's a machlekes. If it's already ala arg, if it already has a sizable size, and you're adding on one, would that make you liable or not? Additionally, the halach of ksav agab ksav is that when you have it already written and then you're writing it over, would that be considered writing or not? On the one hand, the letter's already there, but now you're writing again a letter. It's just on top of the previously written letter. So begin the current daf, the bottom of Kav Gimel Beis. Our Gemara is in the middle, like we said, that the mems are interchangeable. We said, what's our raya? Our raya is that, because we have in the Torah, the remes for Nischamayim is from the Niskehem, is the first mem. Then we have a Yud Unusacheha, extra Yud. Then we have a second mem from, again, V'niskehem. So, actually from Kimishpatam. So on that, the Gemara says, wait a second, how could that spell Mayim? The first mem is being spelled from a endemem, from a mem sofit. How could that spell Mayim? Obviously, that, even if you take an endemem in the place of a mem, it should really be a mem, but you're making an endemem, so that's going to be the same thing that we're saying. If you place a regular mem in place of an endemem, you're writing shame, instead you're writing Shmuel or Shimon, and you stop after the mem. Although it's an open mem, it's like you wrote an endemem, so that's going to be a shem cut and a shem gadol, like we said. And that the Gemara asks and says it's not the same thing. It sounds like the same thing. What's the difference? Switching a regular mem, endemem. No, says the Gemara, mi dummy, is it similar? Is it comparable? When you have pasuach, when you have it supposed to be an open mem, like in the mayim of the remes of Nisach HaMayim for the Yom Tov of Sukkos, v'asli sasim, and you make it closed, you make it endemem as a continue type of kavdal and aleph, aluya krama ali law, you're elevating the status of the letter. So you're making it better. So it's going to work. Because the Amr of Chizdi says, mem the samach shabaluchais, the mem and the samach in the luchais by Matan Torah, but nes hoya oimdin, those letters stood miraculously. Because as we're going to explain, as we're going to prove shortly, that those were the closed letters. And therefore, when you have an endemem, you have the middle that you have to be able to show that there is something here. So obviously, it's in the ear space. Now, but by an open mem, that wasn't by the luchas. How do we know this? Because, says the Gemara, and this is part of the question, Elasasim, when you have what you're supposed to write, let's say Shem, you want to write someone's Shem ben Noach, right? The name is Shem. When you're writing with a closed mem, and instead you made it open where you started writing Shimon or Shmuel and you stop after the mem, that's not necessarily a proof that would be considered as writing, because Guru Kumagarela, you're actually downgrading the letter. And who said it's going to help and be effective? Why is it downgrading? How do we know by the luchos that they only had the closed mem and not the open mem? Because the Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah Yivitem is some sense of B'chir Brabba. Menatzvich, again, menatzvich is the double parts of certain letters. Seifim Amrim, the prophets, Seifim is from the word of looking out, that's what a Navi is, they said it. Now, since Rav Chizda said that the mem and the samach and the luchas were miraculously there, you cannot explain that the letters in the luchas we're talking about, but the closed mem. Because since as we're going to explain later on, the letter is visible from both sides, so the middle should have fell out, if not that it was miraculously. But the open mem, there's no miracle because it's all connected to the stone that you're chiseling it out from. So obviously, when your Yirmiyah said menatzvech, that the tzleifim amrim, that what was later on introduced, must have been the open letters were introduced later on. The regular mem, the regular nun, the regular tzadi, those are introduced later on. So if that's the case, so how could you necessarily compare to say that's the source for the halacha of our Mishnah, which we said in the previous daf? Because it says mayim, the first mem, is with the end of mem, so you see that takes the place of a mem. So then you want to say that a regular mem would take the place of end mem. It's not true. When you're taking end of mem in place of a regular mem, then you're upping the status, because that was by the luchas. This is downgraded because the regular mem was not by the luchas. So who said that regular mem would work in place of an end of mem? When you're writing shem, and meaning you're writing Shimon or Shmuel and you stop after the mem, who said that's going to be considered writing? You're supposed to write an end of mem. You wrote a regular mem, but a regular mem is lower status. That was only introduced later on by the prophets. By the luchas, you only had the closed mem. That's the Gemara's question. Because the Gemara says, wait a second, Tizber, is that really even logical to say that menatzvich tzefim amr, that the prophets, they introduced, you never had the regular mem, the regular mem, you never had all these letters until the prophets later on introduced it? You can't say such a thing. Well, except there's a pasuk in Yikra that says, Eila ha-mitzvahs, there's a pasuk in Yikra that says, these are the mitzvahs that Hashem commanded the Jewish people on Har Sinai. What does it mean, these are the mitzvahs? These means a prophet can never introduce something new, something novel. These are the mitzvahs, nothing's going to change. Ella rather says the Gemara Mahava Havayev. Most definitely that both the middle letters and the ender letters, they were all there from Matan Torah. Meidela have a yadin hai ba'emtzatei, but it's just that the Jewish people didn't know which ones go, and the Mefarshim discuss how could they not know, but that's part of the discussion. They didn't know which was the one that goes in the middle of the word, and hai b'seif table, which one goes at the end of the word. That's why we call it an ender nun, an ender mem, because it's at the end of the word. The Jewish people didn't know. The prophets came along and tikninu, and they instituted, and they said this one goes in the middle and this one goes at the end. So therefore, this is the Gemara's answer. The mems, whether the middle or the end, are the same. They were always there. The prophets, what they introduced, was just where it's placed, and therefore it's not downgrading, and therefore it is the same. Therefore it is a good source. If we find in the Torah that you're putting an end mem instead of a regular mem by the word mayim, which gets alluded to the Nisach HaMayim and the Karbanis of Sukkot, so then we could say the opposite true, that a regular mem is going to take the place of an end mem. When you're middle writing Shimon or Shmuel and you stop after Shin mem, that open mem is going to be like you wrote the word Shem. But the Gemara still has a difficulty, although we answered the question. But you said that, what did the prophets do? That they said where to put the letter. Says the Gemara, but Vakati still, the Gemara says, Eila ha-mitzvahs, when it said these are the mitzvahs, She'ena nabi rishon l'chadish dav me'ata, the prophet never allowed to introduce anything. They can't even tell you where to put the letters. How is that possible that it was never known, and then they came and told you where it is? They can't introduce something that was never there. Rather says the Gemara, no, shalchum. Yes, the Jewish people were told if it was in the middle or at the end of the word. They forgot it. And they subsequently then reinstituted and brought back what was always known, just was forgotten, that you put the open one in the middle, the closed one at the end. Yeah, difficult exactly how that happened, when that was, and first we'll talk about it, but that's what the prophets ended up introducing. Now, Gufa, the Gemara says, Amar Chizda, says, Mem v'samach shabaluchas, we quoted this before, now the Gemara just explains what it means. The Mem and the samach in the luchas, in the tablets, it was miraculously standing. Now, how do we understand this? Because there's another teaching from Amar Rav Chizdi says, Ksav shabaluchas, the writing in the luchas, nikra mibifnim, was able to be read from the inside, meaning facing it. The nikra mibachutz, and it can be read on the outside, which, as Rashi explains, the letters would be opposite, and the word would be opposite. So it's only coming to tell us that the carving went through and through. That's just to explain how we know that the mem and the samach were miraculously there, because it wasn't like you could carve out a mem with if you don't go all the way through, you could just, and then the thing in the middle is staying over there. The problem is it went through and through. So you're able to read the luchas in the back just like you read it from the front. As the Gemara says, Kagoy Navuv Buva. Now, if you were reading Navuv, because you read Hebrew from right to left, when you go look at the back of the luchas, it didn't say Navuv also. It said Buba, because it's backwards. But you're able to read the word itself, and the letter was backwards. Again, it's not really teaching any chiddush in that. All it's just trying to say is that you could read the letter from the back and say it was all the way through and through, because it's stone. That's just to bring out the point that there were benes hayemim, because when you do the middle of the letter, how did it stay over there? That was also Rahav was Bahar, Saru was Veres, which actually Rashi says these words weren't even in Luchas. It's just, I'm picking random words just to show whatever the word would be. On the back, you saw the same letter, again, backwards, and it wouldn't be the same word. But again, it just means to say that Benes Hayemim, that it was miraculously that you were able to have the Mem and the Samach, and that's how we know that the end of Mem and the Samach were there in the Luchas. Now the Gemara introduces, continuing on this of the Aleph Beis that we discussed. On yesterday's Daf, we were talking about writing two letters, Aleph and Beis, or Aleph and Aleph, and here we're speaking about the Aleph Beis in the Luchas. So the Gemara begins a fabulous discussion over here regarding the Aleph Beis. Amri le Rabban le Rabbi Shloimy Levi. Also, there were small boys who came today to the Beis of Medrash. They had said things that even the days of Yeshua ben Nun, Leizma Kavasaya wasn't said like what they said today. So get ready. We're going through the Aleph Beis now. Aleph Beis. They said like this. What does Aleph Beis mean? Aleph Beis means Aleph Bina. Learn inside. The word Aleph means also to learn. And Beis, they use from the word of Bina. A lot of the words you could connect and show how a bias would mean this, but the point is that, and that's why a woman is a bias, they have Bina, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to show the simple understanding of where the letter, the Beis, they took for the word Bina, which means to learn Torah. Then, after Aleph Beis, comes Gimel Dalas. What is Gimel Dalas? Gimel is from Gemoil, which means to aid. Dalas is the dalim, is the needy. So first learn Torah, Aleph Bina, and we call it an Aleph Bina, and then Gimel Dalet, which is to go Gemoil, like Gemilas Chasadim, Dalim, of the poor. Learn Torah and do Chesed. Then, my time of Pshut to carry the Gimel Agabe Dalas. Why is it that the leg of the Gimel sticks out towards the Dalas, and it doesn't go towards the base? Because it's the way of those who do kindness. Loretz Achar Dalim. They run after the poor. So the leg of the Gimel is sticking out towards the Dalet. Now, my time of Pshuta carry the Dalet Legabe Gimel. Now, why is the leg in the Sefer Torah? You see that the leg of the Dalet is backwards towards the Dalet, towards the Gimel, and it doesn't go towards the Hay. The reason for that is because the Limtzele, that he should make himself available, the poor person, Nafshe himself, and that it shouldn't be that the homeowner should have to run after the poor person. So the poor person has his legs sticking out backwards, that he should make himself available to the Balabayas to give him money. Now, my time Ape the Dalas Gimel. Why is the face of the Dalid away from the Gimel? The open part of the Dalid is turning away from the Gimel, from the one who's doing the kindness, is deletely betzina, so that he should give it to him in discreetly, that he shouldn't be embarrassed from him. So his face is turning away from the Gimel, that he shouldn't have to see his face and be embarrassed from him when he does the kindness to him. So that we sit so far Aleph Beis and Gimel Daled. Now up to Hey Vav. Hey Vav, Zesh Moshel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's Hashem's name. Where do you find that? Ani v'hoi, Yoshiano. It's a Gemara in Sukkot of Mehmei and Aleph. Ani v'hoi, hoi is one of Hashem's names, and therefore that refers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is, if you learn Torah and you do Chesed, then you get Hey Vav, you get Hashem's name. Then you have Zayin Ches, Tes Yud, Chaf Lamed, which, as the Gemara explains, if you're going to do this, you're going to learn Torah, you're going to do Gemilas Chasadim, and you're going to have HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your life. Then you have Hey Vav, you're going to have HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's going to be Zonoscha, he's going to sustain you. V'chanoischa, he's going to favor you, that's the Ches. Umeitav Lach, he's going to benefit for you, that's the Tes. V'noischa Yerusha, he's going to give you inheritance, that's the Yud. V'koishalach, and he's going to not for you, mind for you, Keser, that's the chaf, a crown, and the lamed is la'olam haba, for the world to come. Now up to mem. Mem pesucha, mem sutuma. Like we mentioned before, and this is why the Gemara brings this in. We mentioned that there's an open mem, a regular mem in the middle of the word, and then there's a mem sutuma, the end of mem. What does that refer to? Is a maimer petuach. There's sometimes a mem, which means to say the statement, a maimer, that's pesuach, that should be open. A maimer sasim, sometimes the statement should be closed. Which, as Rashi explains, there are certain things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you the permission to expound upon, and there are certain things that you should be closed upon, like Ma'aseh Merkava, the greatest Kabbalistic secrets, are not supposed to be shared. It's supposed to be a closed mouth, not an open mouth. That's the regular mem and the end of mem. Then you have nun kafufa. You have the regular nun that's curved on the bottom. You have nun pshuta, and you have the nun that's straight down. What does that refer to? So you have neman kafav. You have a faithful person that's bent over. You have neman pashut. You have a faithful, that's the nun. The neman pashut, a faithful person that's erect. Meaning, an upstanding person has to be very humble. But at the end, he's going to be straight up and erect in the world to come. So although over here he looks ibigaboigan, but in the world to come he's going to be standing upright. He's going to be so tall of spiritual stature. That's why it's alluded to that the regular nun, here it's bent over, but there it's going to be erect. Now up to samach and ayin. What that refers to, the word samach means samoich, means support. Ayin is the ani, is the poor person. You should support poor people. Or lashon achar, another interpretation is samanin, mnemonics, signs of organizing the teachings of a certain Tana or an Amoira. When you're learning, that you don't forget one of the teachings, like what we have in Shas. Throughout Shas, it says Siman, and it mentions these letters to remember what all the different teachings are. Asay b'Torah, so Samach is Simanim, Ayin is Asay b'Torah, make it by Torah. Ukaneris, and then you're going to acquire Torah. If you make mnemonics to remember, that's what they say. I think Shamshad Pincus, that says the reason why we don't remember our learning is because we don't learn to remember. You have to learn to remember. You should make some mnemonics to remind yourself how to recall it. Then you'll recall Torah. Now up to pei. So you have a pei kafufa. You have a curved pei, which is the regular the regular pei, and you have a pei pshuta. You have an end of pei, which is straight on the bottom. What does that refer to? Pei pasuach. Sometimes you should have an open mouth, which, as the Gemara in Brachas teaches, when everyone is holding on to their own knowledge, then you should open up and you should share the knowledge with the people. Pesasim, sometimes you should have a closed mouth. If everyone is sharing the knowledge, then you keep it to yourself. If there's someone greater than you already sharing the knowledge, then you don't go out and share the knowledge. You keep your mouth quiet. Keep your mouth closed. Now up to the tzadi, you have tzadi kafufa, you have a bent tzadi, which is the regular tzadi. You have a tzadi pshuta, you have an end tzadi, which is straight. What does that refer to? A tzadi kafav, you have the righteous person who's bent over, and you have tzadi pasha, you have a righteous person that's straight up. Says the Gemara, wait a second. Hainu nemen kafav nemen pasha. The same thing you said regarding the nun. The nun, you just call them a faithful person, and now you call him a righteous person, but you said that's why there's a regular and the enda to say that he should be bent, and in the future he should be erect. Says the Gemara, yeah, we're repeating it a second time to show that he should be doubly bent. And from here we learn out that the Torah is given to those who have the trembling head, which is bereses, which are greater level of humility, which is not enough to be bent over. You have to be doubly bent over. That's alluded to the tzadi and the nun, both bent over. In the future, they're going to be erect. Then we're up to kuf. Kuf is kaddish, refers to the Holy One, which refers to Hashem. And reish refers to the Rasha. Reish is Rasha, the wicked person. Now that we have kuf and reish together, my time mahader ape the kuf me reish. Why is it that the face of kuf is turned away from that of the reish? Now Rashi explains it's really just saying in a more appropriate way. It's really not the kuf turning away from the reish. It's really the back of the head is towards kuf. Why is reish facing away from the kuf? We just didn't want to say it as if it's against Hashem. So we're saying, why is the face of kuf away from reish? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is symbolized by the kuf, he's the kaddish, the Holy One. I cannot look at the face of a wicked person. So I don't want to look at a wicked person. So therefore, that's why the reish, which symbolizes the Rasha, is away. His face is turned away from the kuf, that the kaddish Hashem doesn't look at the face of the wicked. Now, my time of Mahadri Tagi the kuf. Then why is the crown of the kuf, which is that you make like a Zion? You look at a Sefer Torah, you see that there's certain little crowns on the top of letters. On the top of a kuf, there's a little bit crown. Why is that crown turned ligabe reish? It's actually turned towards the reish. Why is it there? So the reason for that is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Im chayzer bay, if he does tshuva, ani kosher lekesa kamaisi, I'm going to tie him a crown like I have. So that the crown of the kuf is facing towards the reish, which is symbolizing the rasha, to say that although I can't look at him, but if he does tshuva, I'm going to tie a crown onto him. Now, my time I carried the kuf tluya. Why is the leg of the kuf hanging? Why does it not attach to the roof of the kuf? Says the Gemara, because the hadr bay la'ayil. Because if he does tshuva, then he could come into the kedusha. Says the Gemara, why does he have to come over here? Why can't he just come underneath the leg of the kuf and come in on the right side? Why do you have to keep the kuf hanging so he can come in this way? Why can't he come in this way? Says the Gemara, this supports Rish Lakish. She says, Maida said, what does it mean the pasuk in Mishlei? Im lalates, if you want to be from the cynics, from the scoffers, who yolitz, then you could be from the cynics. Hashem lets you could be the guys in the corner, guys pointing, laughing, mocking, everything that's ever was sanctity of holiness. You say, what a prude, this and that. Ulanovim, but from the humble ones, yitain chen, Hashem will grant favor. What does the pasuk mean? So it means the following idea. Bola tame, if someone comes to make himself tame, defiled, so they make it, there's an opening for you to become tame. Balatar, if you want to make yourself pure, Messiah Moisei, they help him and they make an opening. Hashem says, it's not just I'm going to let you come back and do tshuva and come in. I'm going to make an opening to make it easy for you. I'm going to help you. You want to? Just start. I'm going to help you. And you're going to be able to come in even easier than you would imagine. That's what the pasuk means. In Laleitzim, it says, Hu Yolitz means the person himself could become a cynic. But Hashem's not going to help you or not going to stop you. But in La'anovim, if you want to learn a good characteristic, and that's what's drawing you, Yitain Chen, they will give him favor, they will help him Shemayim. From when it comes to good, Hashem's going to make it easier. That's why the leg of the kuf is hanging down. Now we're up to the shin. So on that says the Gemara shin. This is what these children said. Stands for sheker. Stands for falsehood. And taf, the last letter, alludes to the last word, the last letter of the other word, which is emes, which means to truth. Now, my time is sheker mekarvim mile. Why is it that by the letter, with the word sheker, the letters are right near each other? Those are the kuf, resh, shin. In the order of the aleph base, the word sheker, its three letters are near each other. Whereas emes, by the word emes, it's actually marachkim. It's the exact opposite of sheker. Sheker is three letters right near each other. Emes is the exact opposite. You have the first letter of the aleph base, you have the middle letter of the aleph base, and you have the last letter of the aleph base. Why is that so interesting? The two words that mean the exact opposite. Sheker has the letters right near each other, and emes is on the exact opposite. Says the Gemara, because shikra shchiach, lying is common, which is right near each other. You could find it very easily. Kushtal shchiach, truth is not so common. It's like you gotta find the aleph over there, the mem over there, the suf over there. It's very hard to find the truth. It's at different opposite ends of the world. Now, my time is shikra, whereas sheker is very common, so therefore it's near each other. Now, my time is shikra. Why is it that by the letter of the word sheker, achad karikoi, they're all standing on one letter. Every single letter of sheker stands on 1 foot, because although it looks like the shin is like a bottom, it's actually not how a shin is written. A shin actually has a pointy bottom, which is one leg. The kuf is also on one leg, and the resh is also on one leg. Why is it that they all have one leg, but the emes, the word emes, malabed libune is like bricks, because it's even the aleph has two solid legs, has a really fat leg, and they can really hold it, and the other one is wide, and here's the mem has a fat bottom, and so too the suf has these two legs, so it has these two legs, in contrast to sheker, it only has one leg. Why is it? Says the Gemara, because kush lekoi, although it's hard to find the truth, but it stands. Shikr lekoi, but sheker, falsehood doesn't stand, as the famous Tikkun Zara says, sheker ein le reglayim. What does it mean, sheker ein le reglayim? It doesn't have feet. It only has 1 foot. It doesn't really stand. It's all a straw man. It's all a farce. It's all a fake. They could try to make smoke screens, but it doesn't really stand. Whereas the truth, it endures, and that's why it's written with 2 legs. Now we start something very interesting. Now we just finished the aleph base. Now we start what's called atbash. What's atbash? Atbash is, you take the first letter of the aleph base, aleph. You take the last letter of the aleph base, that's tough. Then you go to the second letter of the aleph base, beis. You go to the second to the last letter of the aleph base, which is shin. And you could expound that in the Torah. We find Chassidus Rambam busy with this. Kabbalah, you switch the letters. They're interchangeable. You could take that order and switch the letters. So that's significance, just like we spoke about the aleph base, which is the building blocks of all the words we use. Now we're going to go through the building blocks of the atbash. We're not going to actually do an atbash, but we're describing what does it mean in atbash. What is Hashem showing with the atbash is, what is aleph, taf, and beyishin? Oisi tav, Hashem says, they would discuss it with me, Hashem says, as avaloi, I should desire him. All of them are like Hashem in wondering. So aleph is oisi, and the taf is tav, and it's also the word esava, in the desire. Some of these you're going to have to look at very closely to see where it's alluded to, and that's the at. And then bash is bi loy chashik, they don't desire me, shmi yachalov, I should have my name on them. So that's the beis b and the shin of shmi. Gar is again the third letter of Gimel, and the third to the last letter is Reish. Gufay time, he defiled his body, that's the Gimel. Arachim, the Reish, Arachim alov, I should have mercy on him. And Dak is Dal Saisei Nol, he closes my doors. Karnov Lagadaya, I shouldn't cut down his pride. So therefore, we see Ad Bash Gar Dak. Says the Gemara, Ad Kan Midas Rasham. Up until now, we were expounding how it's expounded by the wicked people. Al Midas Tzadikim, but by righteous, it's actually expounded very differently. At Bash stands for Im Atta Bush. The Aleph Taf is Atta, and Beishin is Bush. If you're embarrassed from sinning, then Gar Dak, which is Im Atta Isik, and if you're going to do this, then Gar means to dwell, Bedoik, in the heavens. Your soul is going to be bound up beneath the throne of Hashem in heaven. Then it continues, Hatz Vav. Again, the Hey is interchangeable with the Tzadi, the Vav is interchangeable with the Fei. What's Hatz Vav? So Hat stands for Chatzitza. Hey and Ches are always interchangeable. Chatzitza, that's the Hey Tzadi, Hava Bein Chol La'af, is between you and wrath. That's what the Vav Fei alludes to. Then we're up to Zayin and Ayin, Ches and Samach, Tes and Nun, which says, and then what's going to happen also is Ve'inata Mizdazeya, that's the Zayin Ayin, you're not going to tremble, the Zayin Ayin at the end, Min Hasatan, which Ches Samach Tes Nun, Ches is interchangeable with a Hey, it's Hasatan. You're not going to tremble from the prosecuting angel. Yam Kal, what does that refer to? So Amar Sarshal Gehenna Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the angel of Gehenna is going to say in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Banishal, master the world, Le Yam Kol, let them all go into the sea. Which is Rashi explains, Gehenna is called Yam Kol. Why is Gehenna called the sea of them all? Because everyone goes over there. Everyone goes to Gehenna. So the angel of Gehenna is saying, let them go to my sea. Put the whole world, even the Jewish people, into Gehenna. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, now we introduce a new type. We just went to Atbash. Now we say, similar to Atbash, but here we're doing 3 groups of 7, which is, you take the first letter in the Torah, you take the 8th letter in the Torah, and you take the 15th letter in the Torah. And then you do that again and again. And that's going to be, so Achas is, Aleph is the first letter, Ches is the 8th letter, and Samach is the 15th letter. And then we do the same thing with Beis. We go one step further. Beis, Tes, Ayin, and Gimel, Yud, Fei. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says back to the Sar of Gehenna, is Achas bat Gif. What does that mean? Ani, the Aleph is Ani, Chas, I have pity, Aleim on them. Mepnei Shabatu, that's the Beis Tes Ayin, because they rejected the Gif. And what does Gif mean? It means adultery. Because they rejected adultery, therefore they're not going to Gehenna. Dochatz, it's Nutrikin, it's an acronym for Dachim, Kanim, and Tzadikim. Hashem says, Dachim Heim, they're clean. Kanim Heim, they're upright. Tzadikim Heim, they're righteous. Helek, is going to continue on this group of 3. Ein L'cha, you Gehenna don't have. Helek stands for Chelik, again the Hey and Ches are interchangeable. Chelik Bam, you don't have a portion of them in the Jewish people. Umarzan Shas, where Gehenna L'fan, again it says in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, really this is Vav Mem, Reish, Zayin, and Nun Shin. Actually it's a Vav Mem Reish and Zayin Nun Shin. Those are, again, another group of 3, including the Saf with it. Again says in front of Hashem, Rabbi Shloimy, master of the world. Mari, my master, that's the Mem Reish. Zanuni, feed me, that's the Zayin Nun. Mizari Shal Sheis, from the descendants of Shes, which is all the non-Jews and all the Jewish people that we stem from Shes, feed me from them. To which Amalei, Hashem says, now a new computation. This is the first and the 12th letter, and the second and the 13th letter. So Amalei, Hashem says to him, Al-Bam. What's Al-Bam? So actually there's two ways of reading Al-Bam. Either Al-Bam is Amalei, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Bam, you're not going to have a portion in them. Gandas means to say that they're going to Gan Eden. How so? Because Lehechen Eilichem is the Girsa, as some have it, which that's the Aleph Lamed. Eilichem would be like Ches, a Chaf, and the Beis would be interchangeable. Where should I send them? Legan Hadas, to the garden of the myrtle, which refers to Gan Eden. So that's what Al-Bam Gandas is, that Eilichem Gandas, to the garden of the myrtles, which is Gan Eden. Hey, Ayin, and Vav, and Fei, which again, the first and then the 12th. We're going further up in the Aleph base. Amar Gehenim Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Gehenim says in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'nai Shalom, ask the world, Oyef Anoichi. How do you see Oyef Anoichi? Like Rashi says, the Hey Ayin is Hineni Of. That's the Hey Ayin and Vav Fei. Hashem, I'm faint from hunger. Give me people to come to Gehenim. The Gehenim has to eat what it nourishes all for the bad people. So now Hashem says to him, Zatz Chak, Zayin and Tzadi and Ches and Kuf. No, Halalu Zari, that's the Zayin. These are descendants Shal Yitzchak, that's the Tzadi Chof Kuf. They're descendants of Yitzchak, and I'm not giving them to you. Tov, a Tes Reish, Yud Shin, Chaf Saf. What does that refer to? Tar means weight. And Yeshli Kitois, I have groups, other groups. Idol worshippers that I'll give to you. That's the discussion. Those are the lessons we learned in the Aleph. There's many deep Kabbalistic secrets over here in the computations and the shapes and the letters of the Aleph that we introduced because we were talking about the Aleph. Continue on with Beis, we continue with the halachas of these Mishnayos discussing the malacha of kaisav, of writing. So we continue those halachas. A kaisav sheis, which we already mentioned this once before, it's just a way of opening the halacha again. Someone writes two letters, behalam echad, one lapse of awareness, meaning he wasn't aware in between writing the letters. Chayiv is going to be chayiv for the malacha of ksiva on Shabbos. Now, this liability is custom, but whether he writes with ink, besam, with paint, besikra, with red pigment, bekaimis, with gum. It doesn't mean the gum that you chew, it's a certain type of dye, ubekankntem, with copper sulfate, anything that makes a mark. That's the basic idea. If it's making a mark, so then you're going to be liable. Now, al shnei kaisli zavis. Let's say you write on two walls by the corner. So let's say one's on the east and one's on the north, but they're right near each other by the corners. Or al shnei lavachi pinkus, or on the two tablets of a ledger, which is telling us that meaning to say like the storekeepers, they have a ledger. Like they have many different pages, and they're carved in, and they would write it with wax, and they would carve in. But you wrote, even though it's on two different pages, but it was right near each other. And the Heinegim Zemzad, this is the main point, they can be read one with the other. Meaning the Chiddush is that even though you're not writing on one tablet or on one wall, but if they can be read one with the other, so then Chayiv, you're going to be liable. Now, let's say HaKaisiv al Basaroi. If someone writes on his flesh with ink, so then Chayiv, it's going to be Chayiv. Let's say HaMesarid al Basaroi. Let's say he cuts into his flesh and he scratches, and that's how he writes, either with a stylus or with line, but he carves into his flesh and he writes a letter. So it's a machlekes. If it he says Yechayiv Chatas, it is considered writing. B'cham Pleichim, B'cham say, no, you're exempt, it's not considered writing. Let's say Kasav B'mashkin. Let's say someone wrote with liquids, like mulberry juice, or that makes a blackening type of a color, or b'mei peris, or with fruit juices, or other types of fruits, or bavak drachim, or with the dust of the roads, which either means to say that you take mud, or it means to say actually you take your finger and you carve out letters in the dry dust, or bavak haseifim, or in the dust of the scribes, means to say you take the residue of the inkwell of a sefer and you take that dust and you write with that. That's the main point, or anything that's not going to last. So then pater, then you're going to be pater. Again, it's aser, but you're going to be pater from the chiv deraisa of ksiv. Other exemptions are la'achar yadai. Let's say you use the back of your hand, which is, let's say you hold the pen in your fingers, and then you go backwards like this, and you're writing with the back of your hand like that. Or baragloi, this beautiful picture over here, someone writing with his feet, he has the quill between his toes. Or befiv, or with his mouth, or marpeko, he does it with his elbow. Or let's say kasav eis achas samach liksav. Let's say you write one letter near previously written letters. So you're completing it to be 2 or 3 or whatever it is, but you're adding on a letter. Or v'ksav gam b'ksav. Or you're writing on top of something that was already previously written. You're just going it over again and renewing it. Or let's say niskav and lichtev ches. Let's say your intention was to write a ches, and what happened is when you were in the middle of writing, the pen jumped, and you don't see the roof. Actually, a ches is 2 zayins together. So when you're writing the ches, you run out of ink or the pen jumps, and you didn't get the crown of the ches, and because of Beis Zayin, now you ended up, it looks like you wrote 2 zayins. Or let's say achad ba'aretz. Let's say you write one letter on the ground, v'achad b'kaira, and one on the beam. Or let's say kasav al beis kaisla bayis. Let's say you write on 2 walls of the house, which are not, like we said, in the corner. You write one on this wall and one on that wall. Or let's say ashnei dape pinkas, or on 2 columns of a ledger, which they were made in columns, like we have in a scroll. And you write one letter in one pillar, in one column. You write another letter in a different column, which is not, you can't bring it near each other unless you cut out part of the parchment and make it together. And as Rashi says, the same thing would be for the walls of the house that are far from each other. It's just that we first said the 2 walls of the house, which generally we understand cannot be read one with the other. And we say even 2 columns in a ledger, as long as they cannot be read one with the other. And the same thing would be the walls of the house. We're just saying not only walls out, but even a ledger. Potter, you can be exempt because they can't be read together. Now, let's say kasavais achas nutrikin. Let's say you write one letter as an abbreviation, which you make like an apostrophe near a letter to show that this is actually a larger word. So we have a machlekes. Shubim say mechayev, says you're going to be chayev. Chum say you're going to be exempt. He says you're going to be chayev because it's like you're writing the whole word, because you're alluding to it when you make that apostrophe. Like you imagine you write Hashem, you write a hey with an apostrophe. You're although you wrote one letter, but that's showing like a whole word. That you're going to be chayav, and Chum say you're going to be patur. Now the Gemara just goes through now when explaining the halacha of the Mishnah. We open up the Mishnah by saying that if you write 2 letters, no matter what the ink is, you're going to be chayav as long as it makes a mark. So the Gemara explains what these things are. What's diyai? It's diyusa, it's black ink. We said all these things are going to be chayav for ksiva on Shabbos. What's sam? It's sama, which Rashi says is orpiment, which is some type of yellow arsenic. What's sikra? It's a red pigment, like we explained. Amar Abba B'chan, it's sakrasa shema. It's called sakrasa, which is India, which is a red type of a dye, which they would use to dye their shutters. I go to Yelder shutters, they had red shutters over there. That's what the color they used to make it. Kaimais was kuma, was gum Arabic. Kankamtem, Amr Rabba Babachana Amr Shmuel, he says, Charta de Ushkafi, it's the shoemaker's blackening. What the shoemakers make to black? Again, you use that's going to really last. You write 2 letters with that, you're chayav. Now the Mishnah said, anything that makes a mark, that you're going to be chayav for. Says Gemara, you already went through a whole list. What are you adding that wasn't said? Says Gemara, we're coming to include what was taught in the Brisa of Chananya in the context of writing a get. The Brisa says, Kasvai, if you write a get, the meitaria, some say it's a type of fruit, some say it's rainwater. Vafatzi, or with golna juice. Kasher, it's kasher to write a get with that. That's what we're saying. You write with those things too. They also last, and that's what we're saying that you can be chayiv on Shabbos. That's called davar shaloisaration. Tanya Reb Chia, he says also, Kesav, if you write the get ba'avar with lead, which is it's blackening when you put that over the parchment. B'shachar, or with charcoal, or according to Rashi, b'shichar is shoemaker's blackening. Kasher, it's going to be kasher again to write the get, and again, those are things that are going to be chayiv for writing on Shabbos. Then we said in the Mishnah, hamasarid al basari. We said if someone cuts his flesh, it's a machlekes if you're chayiv for writing, tattooing into your flesh on Shabbos. Reb said to the Chachamim, ben Sitada, his name was Ben Sitada, that he took out certain spells from Egypt. What he did was, they didn't let you take out any writings from Egypt, because the necromancers, the sorcerers over there, they would check anyone who left by border control not to take any spells to teach it to any other country. Egypt was the bastion of sorcery, and they don't want anyone to have, so they checked you and they did a search, and you couldn't take out any writings. So what he did was he wrote it on his flesh. So you see that that's considered writing. And therefore you should be chayiv on Shabbos, to which Amalek said to him, what are you shaita? He was deranged. Like Rashi says, this that he did was a deranged act, which most people don't do. And he was Meitzah Nefesh because he wanted to get the spells out of Egypt. You don't bring any proof from people that are deranged. Now, just interesting, a whole discussion over here that's brought in the Hagoyis V'Tziyunim, some Gemaras have, the words that are missing because of the censor. You find throughout Shas, many parts, and we know that the censors always took things out. There's a whole discussion regarding who this Ben Setada is, which the Gemara asks, what do you mean? He was Ben Pantira. On that, Rav Chizda says, no. It talks about who his mother was. Essentially, the reason why it was taken out of the censor, I'm not going to go through the whole Gemara, and there's a thesis on it, that they thought it was Yeshai Hanatsui. And therefore, anything that referred to Yeshai, they took out, especially if it was derogatory. And therefore, there's actually a whole Gemara discussion over here who this Ben Setada is, which there's speculation that he was Yeshai Hanatsui, which says it can't be him. But it's just interesting to note that there are parts of our Gemara that people are very bent on letting people know this, that your Gemara is not complete. And words that were censored out, and that's part of this Gemara's discussion that's not here. The Gemara continues explaining halach in the Mishnah. If you write one letter near another previously written letter, so you're going to be patur. Says Gemara, Man Tana. Who is the Tana of our Mishnah? So Amar Rabba Bar Rav Huna says, Doloi Rabbi Eliezer. Well, we know it's not like Rabbi Eliezer. Because the Rabbi Eliezer, he says in the context of a different malacha, but from there you'll see regarding our malacha, he says, Achas ala orig. Let's say you have already previously woven threads. And now you add on one more woven thread, it says chayv b'chayv, because it's significant. Usually not chayv for weaving one thread because it's not significant. Adding a thread to already previously woven thread is significant. It combines. So he would say this in regarding letters. If you write already one letter to previously written letters, it would be significant. So he would hold you chayv. Our Mishnah holds you patur is obviously not like Rabbi Eliezer. So too, our Mishnah said ksav al gabi ksav. If you write a letter on top of a previously written letter, say you didn't write anything, it's patur. Says Matan who's the time about Mishnah. Rav says the loy Rabbi Yehuda is not Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because the time in the Brayso of an interesting halacha. Harisha yitzarach lichtav is Hashem. Someone's supposed to write Hashem's name, which is Yud K Vav K, in the Torah. The problem is v'niskaven lichtav Yehuda. He had in mind to write the word Yehuda. Now, if you look at the word Yehuda, it's Yud K Vav K with a dalet inside. So he didn't chap. He's middle writing the Sefer Torah. He thinks he's about to write Yehuda. Really supposed to write Hashem's name. Now, he actually made a mistake. So he made two mistakes. First he made the mistake, he thought he's supposed to write Yehuda instead of Hashem's name. But when he's writing Yehuda, he actually skips out the Dalet. So it turns out Hashem's name was written, but not intended. And it has to be written with Kedushas Hashem. So what does he do? Mamru Lav Kulmas. Now he goes and he takes the quill and he goes over the word again, intending to write Hashem's name on all the letters, as if he's writing it now. Mukacha, now he's sanctifying it. That's the Rabbi Yehuda. What do you see from Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that, and interesting, his name is Rabbi Yehuda, is that doing a ksav al gav ksav will give it the sanctity of Hashem's name. And you see ksav al ksav, he holds is considered writing. Because they disagree, they say, no, Ein Hashem in Amukha, that's not a good way to do it, because that's not preferred, because that's not writing it. It already was written. They hold ksav al gav ksav is not considered writing. So you see that our Mishnah holds ksav al gav ksav is not considered writing, they're going to be patur on Shabbos. Is not like Rabbi Yehuda holds it is considered writing, and that is a way of fixing that mistake in the Sefer Torah.
But that's only for Kedushas Hashem, it needs a special.
Yeah, because it's not. How could you give it Kedushas Hashem if you're not writing anything?
But if you write it, another letter, if somebody writes another letter which has nothing to do with Kedushas Hashem, it's a Kedushas Hashem. It's not because if he writes another letter and he wants to fix it. It's particularly.
We're talking about the same letter that you're writing over the same letter.
Because by Kedushas Hashem.
If you wrote a different letter, everyone would agree that you'd be chayv because you're writing a new letter. If you go over the aleph base and you write over, is that writing or not?
Yes.
It is. It's a machlekes.
Yeah, but machlekes is okay. I know it's a machlekes, but you didn't bring a raya from Kedushas Hashem. But Kedushas Hashem is only because you need a specifically machshava of Kedushas Hashem.
And how did you insert the machshava?
So when you write the second time.
What is that writing? Is it writing?
That's a machlekes.
So you want to come with a lumdus and say that it's can heißen nicht geschrieben, aber es heißt angeschickt a kedisha. I hear it's a good lumdus. The Gemara seems to say not like that. That it has to be considered. If you want it to be writing, then you have to be writing. And if it's a writing, then it's a writing. And then you be chayav on Shabbos, and you can put in the kedusha of writing Hashem's name. Now, the Gemara says, Tanu in the Brayso, Kasabais achas. If someone writes one letter, and now because of this letter, he just completed the last letter of one of the 24 Sifrei Tanakh, or let's say org echad echad. Let's say you weave one thread, v'shlima lebeged, and you just completed the beged. Chayiv v'gin michayiv. Says the Gemara, Matana. Who's the Tana that says this? Some Rabbi Barafun says Rabbi Eliezer. It's Rabbi Eliezer. The Omer that he says achas al org chayiv. He says if you do one on the weaving of michayiv. So here too, if you complete the Sefer Torah with one letter, that must be like Rabbi Eliezer. And then Rav Hashem says, no, you could say it's like the Rabbanan. Lahash l'mishani, when you're completing something, is different. That's significant according to everyone. And therefore, even the Rabbanan would agree that you're going to be chai. Now, Amar Bami says, Kosabais achas b'Tivari. If you write one letter in Tivari, and then in the same Shabbos you write v'achas b'Tzipari, one in Tzipari, which are near each other, but they're very far, chai, you're going to be chai. Because ksivahi, it's writing. All it is it's just not together. Which the Gemara says, how could you say such a thing? But Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, that said, if you write on two walls of a house, or on 2 pages of a ledger, they can't read it together, so why is this any different? If you're writing one letter in Tzfari and one letter in Tzfari, obviously you can't read it together, so why are you going to be chayiv? Says no. In the walls of the house, of the ledger, you're lacking an action of tearing. You cannot bring the letters together unless you actually cut out from the wall or cut out from the ledger. Here, you're not missing any action of bringing together. Meaning, when Rambami said it's halacha that you write one letter, you're writing on the edge of a letter in Tzipari, and you're writing one on the beginning of a ledger in Tivaria, you're not missing any action of cutting. All you have to do is bring it together. But they could be read near each other. You just have to actually bring them physically together. But it's not missing a melacha, let's say, of cutting. You don't have to do any cutting, of rearranging. You just happen not to be near each other. But they could be read near each other. Therefore, says the Gemara, that would be chayiv. Now, tell learn a brayso that higia is achas. If someone corrects, he edits one letter in a sefer, chayiv is going to be chayiv. Says the Gemara, wow, how can you say that? Hashtaf, now we said kasab is achas, but if you write a whole letter, you're potter. Higia is achas, if you just edit a letter, chayiv is going to be chayiv. Then Rav Sheshes says, we're talking about, well, how did you edit it? You took out the roof of the ches, and you made it into 2 zayins. And the sefer needed 2 zayins. Now you just completed the sefer. So the Rav Ami gives a different interpretation. You took away the crown of the daled, and you made it into a reish, where you're only editing one letter, and it's very little. You can be chayiv because this is fixing the sefer. As the Gemara says in Subit, you're not allowed to have a sefer Torah that's not edited, as it says in the pasuk in Eiv that al tishkan balecha avla. So it's like you're writing one letter and you're completing the sefer, which we said before that you mechayiv kol rabbanon. Therefore, here also by editing just that one letter, since you're fixing the sefer, you're going to be chayiv. The last halacha of the Gemara related is Tanu learn a brayso, which relates to the halacha of the Mishnah. If you intended to write one letter, and you end up writing 2 letters, which that's essentially the same thing as intending to write a ches, and you wrote 2 zayins, chayiv, you're going to be chayiv. So how can you say that? But now we learn in the Mishnah exactly that case. When you intend to write a ches and you write 2 zayins, that pot, you're going to be potter. So the Gemara is not difficult. In the Mishnah it says it's going to be potter when you intended to write a ches and you wrote 2 zayins, is the boy's unit. Because you didn't really write 2 letters yet. Because you still need to crown the zayins. They need a crown. On the zayin, you have 3 crowns, one going to the right, one going to the left, and one going upwards, as the Gemara says in base. So you didn't do anything yet. When are we saying that you're chayiv? In the brayso is the lebayiziyuni. You already have the zayins on it, so therefore, when instead of writing the ches, you wrote 2 zayins. Therefore, that's the case that you're going to be chayiv. Some of this we spoke about in today's daf in Shabbos Daf Kuf Daled was we spoke about the raya from the previous daf. We said, is it really the same thing? That when you have pesuach and you're making it sasum, which is really supposed to be open, you made it closed. So that's a yilui kumialis. So when the Torah writes the word mayim, like this, the Torah could write mayim like that because you're upgrading the letter. And the reason why we know it's upgrading is because the mem and the samach and the luchas were miraculously, obviously that was a closed mem, which is written like this. And if you want to see that, this middle thing has to be miraculously staying over there because you're able to read it front and back. And menatzvech, which is the other mem, which the Gemara originally assumes is the regular mem, because only by the sefer, by the luchas were the closed mem. The regular mem were instituted later on by the prophets. So therefore, when you were supposed to have it closed, which is the word shame is supposed to be closed, and you made a pesuach, which you wrote like this, because you were in the middle of writing shame from Shimon, and you stopped over here by the mem, that's downgrading it, because that was not by the luchas. Says the Gemara, it's not true. They were both there. This mem were both there. It's just that they forgot which one was at the end, which one was in the middle, and they went back and they instituted, because it can't be that they introduced it, because another cannot introduce anything new. It's just that they forgot, but they were both there, and therefore, of course, you could interchange the end of mem with the regular mem. That's where we learned that from the word mayim, by nisach hamayim. Therefore, shem mishimon or shem mishmul, you're also going to be chai. Then we said a fascinating Gemara discussion from Asu Dardiki, the little children that said the secrets of the Aleph Beis. Some of them were the Aleph Beis, which was Aleph Bina, learn Torah, Gimel Dalim, go ahead and do kindness to others. And I went through the whole Aleph Beis. We also introduced At Bash, which is the first letter of Torah with the last letter, and so on and so forth. And we expounded what At Bash, you're embarrassed, and so on. We also spoke about Achas Beta, which is the first, the 8th, and the 15th letter. So too we had Albam, which is the 1st and the 12th. And we had different mystical secrets about that, about those different computations of the Aleph Beis. Then we had Amud Beis, we went to the Mishnah about Kaiser. We continued with the Malach of writing. If you write 2 letters, whether it be with ink or all types, as long as it makes a mark, you're going to be chayed. We said if it's on 2 walls, but in the corner, as long as you can read one with the other, you're going to be chayed. We said if you carve out, you scratch in your flesh, is machlekes to be chayed. Then we said things that you putter on Shabbos. We said if you write with liquids or all other types of things that don't last, or you're going to be pater. So if you write backhanded, you're going to be pater on things that are similar to that with your toes and your elbow and your mouth and so on. Then we spoke about if you write 1 letter near a writing that you're going to be pater. That we said is not like Rabbi Eliezer, who says that if you're achas ala arg, you add on to something that was pre-existing, you are going to be chayv. We said if you write on top of previously written writings that you're going to be pater, is not like Rabbi Yehuda, who when we said writing the word of Hashem with the Dalet, he said that you could write it over. Therefore, he holds yes ksav al gav ksav. We also said that if you intended to write a ches, and instead you wrote 2 zayins, that you're going to be pater, which the Gemara ultimately explains is when you don't have the zayins on top of the zayins, so you didn't do anything. And we said that if you have 1 on the ground and 1 on the beam, as long as they're not read one or the other, all these cases are going to be pater. And again, over here we said lahashlim shani. Here we said that although 1 letter near the previously written letters, you're going to be pater. But again, we said that everyone's going to agree if you're completing a sefer Torah that you would be chayiv. Then we said also that what's different than this case of not being read one with the other, you pater. But if you write 1 letter tzipar, 1 in teveria, which you're not really missing in action, all you're missing is bringing it close together, then you're going to be pater. And we said that if you write 1 letter as nutrikin, like we said, you write Hashem like that, that's a machlekes, that's considered writing. And now thank you to anytime for hosting us.